Welcome to this episode of Learning Fusion. In today's episode, we're going to start talking about tracking within Fusion, and we're going to cover the point tracker. So let's roll this intro and let's get into it.
We're learning Fusion together. We'll learn 2D stuff and 3D stuff and particle stuff and compositing stuff, deep pixel stuff and tracking stuff, but not other stuff, but some other cool stuff, cause we're learning Fusion together.
So here I am in Fusion, and first off, I'm going to go ahead and just add a tracker. And within Fusion, we use trackers for many reasons. So I'm not going to list every single reason because there's a lot and basically it's infinite. So anything you need to do with a tracker, you can do in Fusion. And I'm not going to cover each individual little setting on the trackers. I already did a node breakdown of all the trackers. So if you want to check those node breakdowns, I go in depth about exactly what every single setting is and how to operate it. I'm just going to cover using trackers in the point tracker within Fusion. So by default, when we bring in the tracker node, it's going to give us this IntelliTrack. And I have Studio version, so it uses the IntelliTrack by default. If you have the free version, you may only get the point track. And the only difference is IntelliTrack, you can't resize your search area because it's intelligent already. Whereas the point track, you can actually resize your search area if you need to. So I can increase it, decrease it, and that's the only difference. And realistically, they both operate about the same. I would say the IntelliTrack does work a tiny bit better at tracking, but not much. So again, point tracker only in the free version, IntelliTrack and point track in the Studio version. So let's go ahead and delete that. And let's select an area to track, and I'm going to track this little dot. So all I have to do is hit track forward, and there we go. We've got a track on that little dot. And what it did is it actually created a polyline. So if I look in close, you can see our little tracked area here is following a polyline. And if I select my little polyline there, I can click here to show my points if I want, because we've got all the same settings we have on our polyline. So I can select them all and modify them, change them. I can change the curves, change it to linear, do whatever I want. Additionally, I can actually change the location of these track points, and I'll get in that here in a minute. But this is a track it created. So let's go ahead and hide those points again. And you can see our little track is following that polyline track. And in its simplest form, we can just use this to attach stuff to. So on the tracker node itself, if I leave it connected there, I can just create something here. And let's go ahead and make a little dot, because dots are awesome. And let's change the size of our little ellipse here. And we're not going to see anything until I go to our tracker node and go to our operation, and I select match move. And right now you can see our little dot. Let's go ahead and change that color to a nice purple so we can see it. And if I push play, you can see our dot is following that track. And that's because on our tracker node, I just said match move and I told it to merge the foreground over our background. So our foreground image is going on top of our background. Now this is great, and you notice it's following the movement, but it's not actually in our location. So you could technically, if you wanted to, add a transform, and I can move my transform over to my little dot. And if I push play again, it's stuck to that track and I'm good to go. Now, additionally, one of the most powerful parts of tracking is the data it creates. Meaning anytime I create a tracker, it's automatically in the little Fusion universe of our clip here. It's creating that track data and just holding it. So technically I could get rid of this transform. Let's move this stuff out of the way. I could disconnect my track there. If I input our background, input this to our little merge area, I could go here. I can right click on our center, connect to, I can go to our path position, and it's automatically going to snap it to our actual track. So now based off our merge, I've just got our merge centered on that little track. So now our dot is following that track. And you notice I don't even have our little tracker connected here. And as long as I'm connecting data, I don't need it connected. But if I'm actually using some other operations, and I'll show like the corner positioning and perspective positioning, I do need that connected. But I'll show you those here in a second. So in its basic form, like I said, it's just attaching our little track data to whatever we tell it to attach to. And in this instance, I told my merge to connect that foreground image where I wanted it. So the center to the track data. Additionally, if I double click and clear it out, if I go here and I say connect to, if we look at this tracker, and so actually let me go ahead and shrink this down so we can see all these little menu systems that are going on. But if I right click over this center and say connect to, if I look at our track, we have a few options here. So this offset position is quite handy, especially if we're tracking stuff that doesn't stay on screen. So for instance, let's say on our little tracker here, let's refresh, and let's say on this shot, we needed to replace something that's on this little dot right there. And if you notice, our little dot isn't staying in there, so there's really no way to track. But if you notice on this painting, it's kind of on the same little plane, so we could track something else on this painting. So I'm going to select this little bump right there, and I'm just going to track forward and backward. And now we've got that tracked. And what I could do is right here on our offset, if you look, we're seeing this little offset pop out. So I could change that offset. If I move it over so I can see our little dot right here, I can just keep moving that offset until it's on our dot. So if you notice right here, we've got our little offset in the center of our dot. Now I could, again, like I said, bring this in, connect it straight. And if I went to match move, it technically is on our offset, because if I go to our offset and I change it, you can see our little purple dot is moving. But you notice it's not really staying on our little offset area. So the best way to actually connect our little info here would be to just go to our merge node again. And on our center, I can right click, connect to tracker 1, offset position, and it's automatically going to center itself on that offset position. So now if I push play, using offset, we've got that covered with whatever we needed to cover it with. Now, additionally, we can use this for fixed jobs, like if we needed to say remove this mole or something like that. But I'm really not going to get into that with the tracker node today, because we're going to do a whole episode on cleaning up and fixing and correcting stuff using the tracker, not using the tracker, doing all different scenarios to where we can clean up and fix things within our shots. So let's delete this. So an easy way, just so you know, is instead of actually using a full tracker node to add a tracker node, we can just bring in a paint node. So if all we needed to do is fix that little mole right there, I could select single stroke, clone, and I zoom in, hold Alt, click, cover it. So now our little mole is gone. If I go here and select that stroke, select group. If I go to my little center area right here, I can say modify with and select tracker position. Now, yes, we don't have a tracker position yet, but if we go to modifiers, you notice it just actually threw a tracker on our paint node. So it's asking what track source. So it's our media. So I'm just going to click and drag our media in there. If you notice, our little tracker is actually on that mole, even though we can't see it under the paint. So if I just hit track, it's going to track that mole that's underneath that little paint job there. And there we go, just using the paint node, it actually added its own tracker and our mole is gone. So that's a simple, easy way to do it without actually having to use a separate tracker node, because the paint node is going to create its own tracker within the modifier. let's go ahead and delete that. Now, as I said, it actually creates its own little polyline there, and we can edit that polyline. So, for example, we can track this little flower in the center of her belly jewelry there, but her arm's going to go over it and it's going to throw off our track. So let's go ahead and add a tracker, and we're going to track the center of that little piece of jewelry there and track forward. And one of two things are going to happen. It's either going to throw it off or it's going to stop with an error. So a lot of times if your tracks go off, it's going to give you an error because it can no longer track. And this track through, assuming it got it right, but I bet it didn't. So let's go back and we can see what's happening with our track. So if we zoom in to where her arm crosses, it actually did a pretty good job of staying there. And yeah, it did pretty good. But if we had to move it, and like, see, even this one kind of slid a little bit, we could zoom in and we can actually grab that little point. We can move it to where we want. We can go to the next frame, grab that point, smooth it out a little bit, go to the next frame, and there we go. It did a pretty good job on its own tracking. So then we could just set that aside, and if we wanted to create something else, we could. So we could just bring this in, and let's go ahead and let's create a little arrow. Polyline, create arrow. And there we go. We've got an arrow. I can change this scale up a little bit so it's larger. If I go to merge, I can right click, connect to our IntelliTrack position. So now our arrow is always going to follow her little jewelry. So there we go. Now, additionally, the track node is used for stabilization, and there's many different ways to stabilize. I personally don't do it this way, but if you don't have any third-party products or anything to be able to stabilize, you can use this to stabilize. And the way you do that is we'd add a tracker node. So if we look at our tracker, we can select something that's going to be in our little area here. Add another tracker. Pick this little point. Let's add another tracker. Select this little white dot there. And for good measure, let's just add one more. And let's select this little rust piece here, and hopefully she don't cover it. So let's go ahead and track forward. And she moved it. So let's go ahead and delete this last one. So we've got 3 tracks, which is good. You need a minimum of 2. So if I go here and go to our operations, I can just select match move, background only. And if I push play, now our footage is stabilized. And if you had to resize it to keep it in there, we could always resize our footage, which this one you're going to have to resize a lot. But there you go. You've got stable footage almost in there. And there we go. It's stabilized. Now we can also use this data to do different things to stabilize and unstabilize. So let's go ahead and get rid of this. So for instance, if we wanted to add text along this fence line, kind of in its perspective, we could bring a merge in. Go here, let's add a text. And let's put walking, because that's what she's doing. She is walking. let's go ahead and move this down so it fits on our little fence, and we can go to our transform, and oops, I want to transform by word. Swing it around. Get it straight. And there we go. We're walking. Let's change the size so it fits in there. And then our merge node, if I go to our merge node, right click, connect to our tracker 2, because remember we're operating on tracker 2, tracker 1's up here. So connect to tracker 2, and I just select our unsteady position. And I push play. There we go. It's kind of tracking with it, but clearly those tracks weren't that great. So that's why I said having more is better, because the more tracks we get, the more stable that's going to be within there. But you get the picture. So let's go ahead and delete these other tracks so they're not confusing anything. But we can also stabilize around our objects like the old iPhone commercials there. So if we add a tracker, we can go here and select his little ear there, and we can track forward. There we go. So now we got a track. So if we go to our tracker node, go to operations, match move, background only. Now you notice it's stabilized around our little track that's on his ear there. So it's all nice and stabilized. And again, we can add a transform node. And if we look at our transform, we can increase the size so it's all fitting in there nicely. I can probably move this up a little bit. There we go. So we've got the his head stabilized in the center of the shot. And again, we can always add more things to it. So we can add a text, and we can say running. Everybody's running, walking, or doing something. So bring the size up, bring it down. Let's change a merge to multiply there. Now we got running in the background. And if we really wanted to, we could actually attach this one to the tracker. So we can go to center, connect to IntelliTracker, position. So now he's running. And then we could add a transform under that. So we could transform that down so it stays on the bottom of our little shot. So there we go. We've got him running with our running, jumping with his head. Now there are other operations, our corner positioning and our perspective positioning, that we use the tracker for quite a bit. So let's go ahead and move these down and give us some room. So if we look at our footage here, we've just got a simple little green screen that we can track. So we can add a tracker. And on this one, we're just going to get our four corners of our little green screen here. So add a second one. Corner of our green screen, add a third one. Corner, add a fourth one. Get it in the corner. And then we're going to track forward. So there we go. We've got our little track of our four corners. And if we go up to operation and I select corner positioning, you can see we get this little red X, and it's not necessarily a red X. It's just that our image is flipped, because right here we have top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. And it's saying our top left should be track 1, top right should be track 2, bottom left should be track 3, which it's not. So let's change bottom left to track 4 and bottom right to track 3. So now it's all nice and straight. So now if we bring any footage in, it just connects it straight to our foreground image. and we look. Let's go ahead and trim that up. Now we've got our little footage following our little corner positioning. Very simple and quick. Now, additionally, we can use this kind of same corner positioning philosophy with this tracker by itself. So in here, let's say we wanted to fix this painting here and we wanted to get rid of that weird little strawberry thing. We could. So let's add a tracker. And on our tracker, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add 4 tracks and we're going to track this little painting here. So add a second one. Add a third one. And again, I'll do it backwards to show you how to fix that. Add a 4th one. And let's go ahead and track forward. So now we've got our track. So there we go. It's tracked. And if I go to our operations here and I select perspective positioning, it's the same thing. Top left 1, top right 2, bottom left should be 4 and 3. And if I go here, connect our original footage into our foreground, now you can see it just positioned per perspective our little footage there. So it's just got our painting sitting there. That's what we selected and tracked. So it's in this window here. So what we could do is after this, we could add a paint node, go to our paint node. And let's just do this easy. Clone. Let's change the size of our brush, make it a little bigger so it's faster. Alt click and just paint. Alt click, paint, alt click, paint. And there we go. Our little strawberry is gone. So to be able to reintroduce this into our node here, all we have to do is Control C, Control V, copy our little tracker, input this original into our background. So now we're back here and we take this and put it into our foreground. And I know it looks weird, but if we go to this tracker that we cut, copied, and pasted and go to our operation and change it to corner positioning instead, now we've got that new image right there. There we go. So we went from this one with our little strawberry being in there to this one with no strawberry in there. Or if you really wanted to, you could just bring in some random footage and plug it in instead. And yeah, our sizing is all wonky and weird, but we could resize it so it fit correctly. But there we go. Now, speaking of sizing, I'm going to go back to our first one here, because I do kind of want to cover this because this is an issue and a problem that a lot of people run into. So let's go ahead and add a tracker and let's track this little dot here. Track it forward. So we've got it tracked. So like I said, we could just bring in just anything, connect it. If we go to operation, match move, now we've got our logo there and it's matched to it. But remember, I said it's easier to use that data if we want it actually connected to here. So if you remember right, we can just disconnect this. So that's tracker 4. Let me just remember that. So let's add a merge node. Let's input this, and let's look. And if I go to this merge node and I hit right click, connect to tracker 4 position, it's going to connect nice and correctly. But if I wanted to say connect this to something else and meaning not want my merge connected. So if I did this and I was like, okay, I'm going to bring in a transform and connect my transform to my little dot. So let's go ahead and do that. Bring in a transform, and on my transform, I'm going to right click, connect to tracker for position. You notice it just did something weird. So it's not actually attached to our tracker position. And that's because our image size is wrong. So if I look at our media, our image size is just 660 by 627. So that transform with that connected data is taking that into account, because you see where our transform is over here in association with our regular tracker. So when we go to our merge, it's not quite working right at all, because our little tracking data has been shrunk down to meet the size of our media. So if you need to use a transform, meaning you don't want to connect to that merge and you want to connect to a transform, you still can, but just behind your media to make sure it's the right size and the same size as your tracker footage, meaning the footage we used for our tracker data is 3840 by 2160. Anything we connect to it needs to be 3840 by 2160 for that tracking data to match up correctly. So before our little transform, after our image that we need to be resized, we can hit a shift space, crop node, and if you notice, it cropped it, but it did something weird. It stuck it down there. So on our crop node, we could just select this keep centered. So now our little footage is going to stay centered within our crop. But now if I go to my transform node and I right click, connect to position, now it's connecting to our position correctly because our media is resized to the correct media size. So just keep that in mind while you're connecting stuff. If it does something odd, it's usually due to your resolution of the media you're connecting. So just make sure your resolution is always the same as the resolution of the footage you tracked with your tracker. So that is a quick lowdown of using the tracker node within Fusion. In the next one, we will cover the planar tracker, which is close to the same as using the planar on here, but it is a little different. So I will see you in the next episode.